We ourselves as parents have our own experiences and have had our own experiences in childhood when we were growing up, how our parents raised us, their parenting styles, they affected us, the environment that we grew up in, whether you grew up in a well-off home or a home where there was just never enough. Those things shaped you and they played a very big role in who you are today. And there's no denying that. And that shows up in our parenting style. Our parenting styles are such an amazing and interesting thing because we can be so unaware of what we are doing, what we are saying, and how we're treating our children that we don't even know if a previous experience has traumatized us until someone points it out, or your child just starts reacting in a way that you did not expect to your parenting style. Sometimes you're just not there. You're just not able as a human being to monitor every moment of your child's interactions with people. And if you are, wow, we are not with our children all the time. We're not with them when they are having conversations with a friend. We're not there to know what they speak about and how they feel about certain things. So it's important for us to listen in on as many of their conversations with friends as possible. It's important for us to listen in on as many conversations with family members as possible. It's important for us to be present and aware of our children at all times. And I say this not to bring suspicion or fear. I say this to remind us that our children are susceptible to other people's experiences. For example, if your child has a friend who's their age, just as innocent or as lovely and wonderful as your child is, but is coming from a toxic home or a home that is completely marred by domestic violence or something bad is just happening in their home, they bring that experience into their interaction with your child. And we may excuse some things as silly children's behavior, but some things are genuinely things that we don't want our children exposed to. If a child is coming from a home where there is just no peace and everyone is always shouting and everyone is always angry and there's hostility in the atmosphere, then they bring that experience into your child's life because when they interact with your child, they are most likely loud, aggressive, maybe even bullying your child. But they're not doing it because they are horrible children. They're doing it because that's the environment that they come from. Something interesting to think about, something interesting to consider if you have a teenager or a tween is that element of privacy. When they get to a certain age, they start to feel like they need a bit of space from you. If that is the case, then you need to find ways to still connect with your child, but still give them autonomy. That basically means give them space to be an individual, an independent thinking individual who can make decisions, some decisions, by themselves. Our children as teenagers are in a phase of transition, and it's a space where their prefrontal cortex, this area of their brain, is still developing, and they need guidance, but they truly believe they do not. They believe they understand the world and how it works, and they have everything under control. But they're wrong. But of course, if you tell them that they're wrong, you're going to start a fight. So, as a parent, we need to continually find ways to keep them in our world, to keep them in a space where they feel safe and able to be themselves, to discover who they are and where they want to go, but also guide them and be present and be around when they need us, because they do need us. They tend to make decisions from their emotional center at this time, because their brain is really just being reconstructed and everything is changing in them and around them. The way they see the world is no longer the same as how they saw it in childhood. And so we really need to make sure that we are careful with how we interact with them, because many times that determines how much of their lives they allow us to be part of. Psychologists have identified 4 different kinds of parenting styles. One is the permissive parent, who is free with anything, happy with anything, allows their child to do anything, eat anything, sleep at any time, demand anything. So if they walk into a shop and their child throws a tantrum because they want a particular thing or a particular toy, the permissive parent will get it for them. No questions asked, no hesitations. That is the one extreme. The other extreme, on the other end of the spectrum, would be the authoritarian parent. And that parent is the mean, harsh parent that has all these laws and these rules that must be followed, and is not willing to hear any negotiations or take any pushback from a child. These are iron fist kind of parents. If you've watched the movie Matilda, that is that school principal. What is her name? Ah, man, I forgot her name. But she is an authoritarian. And then we have 2 other kinds who are in the middle. We have the uninvolved parent, who is happy-go-lucky about most things, doesn't get involved emotionally with their children, doesn't make time to bond with them, is kind of just waiting for them to move out of their house. They pay school fees, they buy them clothes, they buy them food, and what they need, but they never really connect with their children. And then we also have the authoritative parent. So we have the authoritarian, who's the harsh iron fist ruler, but we also have the authoritative parent, meaning they are in authority and they know that and they exercise their authority, but they allow their children to speak whenever they need to. They allow their children to voice out their emotions or their concerns, and they are open to negotiations and having their children give input into different decisions that they make in their lives. That is the authoritative parent. Now, depending on your upbringing, depending on what kind of life you lived up until you became a parent, you may decide to take on one of these parenting styles, whether you're aware or unaware. many permissive parents come from a strict home and they decided, I don't want to stress my child out with all these rules that I had to follow. I don't want my child to be tied to a routine because mine was just too hectic. I will never discipline my children because I used to get beaten, or I used to get spanked or put into timeout or sent to my room. And I really didn't like that. I didn't enjoy that. So in my parenting style, I'm just going to let my children decide what they want to do, and I'll support them in every decision they make. That is the permissive parent. And someone who comes from an authoritarian background or may also decide to become an authoritarian. Some people do it because they know no other way of doing it. They know no other way of connecting with children. And so they just continue with how their parents did it, whether it was mentally beneficial or not, whether they were able to cope with it or not. They just carry on, and they spank their children and they shout at their children a lot. And there's always tension and this need for them to show that they are the person in authority. And the uninvolved parent, like I said, may just be one of those who was never really bonding with their parent and decides, why does this child need me? They have everything. I provide them with everything that they need. And so they don't really need me. Or life could just be lifing. And they just cannot make the time to spend with their children. And they believe since their child goes to school, the teacher will check on the child's development and progress. And when they're at home, they're with a helper, they've got television, they've got a phone or tablet or a laptop, and they seem pretty involved with that. So why does the parent need to get involved? And then you have the authoritative parent who either grew up in a home where they were allowed to express themselves and speak, or did not, but decides, I don't want my child to have the same issues that I have, and so I'm going to try and do it a little bit different. So these four parenting styles all affect how our children grow up. And more often than not, our children with our parenting styles will affect their friends with whatever experiences they're having at home. And it's just a cycle that continues and continues and continues. And so I just wanted to bring you into the place of awareness, of thinking about your parenting style, how you're raising your child. Is it from past trauma? Why are you raising them the way you're raising them? And become conscious of what kind of environment do you provide for your child? What kind of peace do they have? What kind of life do they have? What experiences could they be having? Are they struggling in their academics? Is it because of their home environment? Or is it because of something else? Would you know if your child was stressed or feeling under pressure? Would you know if they were in a mental state that was not okay? These are the questions that I would like for us to ask ourselves every single day when we interact with our children, because these are so important. Many times we think our children are fine, many times we are wrong, because our children are looking every single day for moments to connect with us. And it is a lot of work. It is just a lot of work. It takes time and energy and intentionality. And if your life is already packed If your life is already busy, then you will struggle to make that time. But we need to make it, because our children, remember, they're biologically wired to learn from us. We are their version of machine learning, and if we don't provide them with the environment that they need in order to thrive, then they will struggle, and they will probably just continue the cycle of struggling and struggling and struggling. So take a moment and think of your parenting style and why you do what you do for your child. You might find out that there's something missing, and that something is you. Or you might find out that they have everything they need, and maybe you're just that parent that hovers over your child, that is looking into everything, and your child just feels like, man, could you give me a break, please? Especially our teenagers. So here's a few ways that you will know when you need to stop and maybe look at how your parenting style is affected by previous experiences. If you're having trouble bonding with your child, if you're having trouble getting along with your child, if you're having trouble accepting small mistakes that they make, and if you overreact about every little thing that they do, you may be, just maybe, showing signs of past trauma that you have not dealt with. And often our children are the easiest targets for this, because we are so unaware of our behavior that it ends up affecting our children. So if you're a parent who has been through trauma in your life and you never went for counseling, never went for therapy, you might want to consider it. Our children are affected by the things that happen in our world as well. So if you are experiencing any kinds of signs of trauma, flashbacks, nightmares, stress, depression, anything that you may think is linked to any kind of trauma you may have experienced, please do go and get yourself booked into therapy or anything that will help. And when I say anything, I don't mean like drugs or alcohol. But please do go get help. In a world like today's world, it's okay to reach out to someone and say, hey, I need help with this issue. I am Elaine Matlala. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope it has been useful, beneficial, informative, and please do subscribe to my channel if you have not yet, and share it with a friend or like my video so that the YouTube algorithm can keep on sharing. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week on my next video.